everybody, hello and welcome. I am Adri Gregan, and I am back for more Jujutsu Kaisen Season 1. Today we're taking on Episode 8. And last time was Gojo, obviously. That was most of it. Volcano Head decided to fuck around, and he certainly found out. And we found out as well about Gojo's infinity, his infinite void. The infinitely decreasing distance as you try to approach him, as apparently he is just the world's asymptote. So yeah, we were reassured that Gojo is still, in fact, the strongest. We also got to show Yuji a little bit of what Goji, oh jeez, that is not the kind of ship I want to have any part in. Yuji got to see how strong Gojo is as well, and just how far he has to go. Even someone like Volcano Head was evidently quite powerful to Yuji, so the fact that Gojo was able to handle it just like that shows him just how far he has to go. That's not to say he hasn't made a lot of progress, though. Gojo did take him back from the middle of his training, which he was doing really well on. Not only could he converse while he was keeping the boxer from knocking his lights out, but he was even able to go through Gojo's unusual request and still managed to keep control of it. So he's got a lot of promise. He's clearly working hard, and I get a feeling we're going to see some escalation with his training pretty soon, which is something we heard about at the end of the last episode. Gojo mentioned that he's going to be a lot more hands-on training. So there's probably going to be a whole lot of Yuji whiffing as he tries to land a blow on Gojo. Gojo's probably not going to fight back too much, otherwise Yuji won't survive, but I guess Sukuna can always bring him back if we need to. It's interesting, though. Last episode, we didn't get left off with a whole lot of where we're going to go next. Pretty much all of last episode was a detour from Gojo meeting with the principal, so I assume he's going to do that this episode. I don't know if he's going to continue to bring Yuji along, or if he's going to drop him back off so we can keep watching movies. And they're probably going to have a nice debrief about Volcano Head and about just the appearance of all these special grades and what's going on. Because there is definitely something going on. And I believe it was October 31st, there is something very big that's going to go on. Because it seems like a little collection of curses, and one person who I still assume to be a sorcerer seemed to be having that chosen as the date that they're going to move in on Gojo. Speaking of, let's introduce our villains real quick. So we've obviously all met Volcano Head, the tool upon tools. We also met the person that he thinks he's more intelligent than, Hanami. I assume Hana meaning flowers, which makes sense because of his flower thing. He seems to get rid of the enemy's will to fight, which is really interesting. Especially against someone like Gojo, who, during his domain expansion, he mentioned that when you're faced with infinity, basically there's nothing left to do but resign yourself. So that resignation between both of them is pretty interesting. I wonder if they'll build that out at all. We also finally got introduced to the human of the bunch's name, Geto, which I don't think we've heard the name before, so I still have a feeling that he's either part of the Kyoto school or potentially part of ours. Probably not ours, I would guess Kyoto. If not, he could just be a whole different thing. I'm going to look like such a fool if he actually is a curse and he's not human at all, but he definitely seems human-y, and he's interacted with humans. He went to the cafe, so he's human until proven otherwise. That line is already a tiny bit blurry, but what makes the line really blurry between humans and curses is not Yuji, but Mahito. A name that for some reason over this past day I've not been able to remember. That is literally the first time I've been able to remember his name without having to go back and check. I don't know why. It's like there's a curse on me where his name just keeps deleting itself from its existence. Which is a real shame because Mahito is a really cool name. I really like the name. I didn't look up the kanji for it, so my personal headcanon and what seems to make sense is if it's Mahito, so like a demonic human or a demonic person, so that'd be really cool if he's Mahito, and that's kind of my, that's what I'm using to remember his name. Who knows, I could be completely right, it could be completely wrong, maybe I'll check after this, maybe I won't, could be a spoiler, probably not, but I'll probably take a look afterwards, just as a nice little fun Japanese exercise for me. So yeah, we met Mahito, who really seems like the biggest blurring of the line between humans and curses we've seen. I assume he is a curse. However, he himself seems to be self-identifying with that blurry line. He mentioned at the end of this episode, let's be cunning about this. He mentioned like humans would. So I assume he's a curse, but it's always possible that he could be a similar situation as Yuji. He could potentially be some sort of blend. That could be interesting. But if he is a curse, that could be even more interesting because, again, he looks human, he acts human, he talks human. Effectively, he is a curse that is, if it walk like duck, talk like duck, is it really a curse, right? So that could be a really interesting blurring of those lines. Or potentially a Volcano Head's idea of basically the superior humans, the new humanity, which Volcano Head will never be a part of, obviously, but Mahito, that one I could see a little bit more of. But that's pretty much what happened last episode. That's mostly covers it. Obviously, we had some incredible animation. We didn't see a whole lot more of the training like the other side. It was mainly just Gojo and the antagonists. So we'll probably build that out a little bit more. Other than that, and the meeting with the principal, I don't really have a whole lot of ideas where we're going to go from here. So I guess the only way to find out is just to pop right in. As with all my reactions, I will have a full version in the description, unedited. The edited full version is up on YouTube. The audio will be altered, and of course the visuals will be mostly cut out just for copyright reasons. However, my episode breakdown and the analysis will be also on YouTube at the end of the video, at the end of the reaction, sorry. So whether you go in the description or whether you stay on here, I will see you afterwards for the breakdown at the end. And with all that housekeeping out of the way, let's go ahead and hop into Jujutsu Kaisen Season 1, Episode 8. Out in the sticks. Ooh, there's sweater forms. It's pretty far out of the way. Ooh. We're going to meet Kyoto's principal. Okay. Gojo Satoru, yeah. So we're going to have some tension. Yeah, Gojo probably won't bring Yuji to the meeting, assuming that wasn't in the past, because he wants to keep him on the down low. My. Ooh, I've seen him before. My, I've not seen her before. Twins. Of course. I love this music. Got this bass, this surround sound. Really helps with the ambiance.
初対面のあんたと女の趣味を話さないといけないんですか？
そうよ、むっつりにはハードル高いわよ。
お前は黙ってる。ただでさえ意味わかんねえ状況が余計ややこしくなる。
京都3年東堂葵、自己紹介終わり。これでお友達だな。葵、自己紹介終わり。これでお友達だな。早く答えろ。男でもいいぞ。性癖にはそいつの全てが反映される。女の趣味がつまらんやつはそいつ自身もつまらん。俺はつまらん男が大嫌いだ。交流会は血湧き肉踊る俺の魂の独壇場。最後の交流会で退屈なんてさせられたら何しでかすかわからんからな。
ねえ、呪術高専って4年生でしょ？
交流会は3年までなんだよ。
へえ。
俺なりの優しさだ。今なら半殺しで済む。答えろ伏黒。どんな女がタイプだ。
なんだこれ、大喜利かよ。
あれ、夏服か？ムカつくけどいいな。
釘先は丸腰だ。揉め事は避けたい。
人を許せないのは悪いことじゃないよ。それも恵みの優しさでしょ。
別に好みとかありませんよ。その人に揺るがない人間性があればそれ以上は何も求めません。
悪くない答えね。巨乳好きとか抜かしたら私が殺してたわ。
うるせえ。
やっぱりだ。退屈だよ伏黒。
ああ、伏黒くんかわいそう。二級術師として入学した天才も一級の東堂先輩相手じゃただの1年生だもん。後で慰めてあげようっと。
似てるって思ったけど全然だわ。マキさんの方が100倍美人。寝不足か？毛穴開いてんぞ。
口の利き方教えてあげる。
一目見た時から分かってた。ああ、こいつは退屈だと。でも人を見た目で判断しちゃいけないよな。だからわざわざ質問したのに。お前は俺の優しさを踏みにじったんだ。
もしかして頭の中身までパイナップルなのか？東堂、あの東堂なのか。去年起きた呪詛師夏油による未曾有の呪術テロ。新宿京都百鬼夜行。京都の夜行に現れた一級呪霊5体、特級呪霊1体を一人で払ったっていう、あの東堂。だが特級に勝てる一級術師はいるにはいる。驚くべきはあんた術式使わないんだってな。
ああ、あの噂はガセだ。特級相手には使ったぞ。
一級には使ってねえのかよ、化け物が。安心したよ。ヌエプラスガマ聖帝知らず。相手はゴリゴリの近接タイプ。距離を取り拘束する。早い、さっきのが全速じゃん。
薄っぺらいんだ。
てやるよ。動くな。
何やってんの。ギリギリセーフ。
丘か。
まあアウトっちゃアウトか。久しぶりだなパンダ。なんで交流会まで我慢できないかね。帰った帰った。大きい声出すぞ。いやーんって言われなくても帰るところだ。上着どこだっけ。どうやら退屈指導士ってわけでもなさそうだ。乙骨に伝えとけ。お前も出ろと。めんどくせえ。俺パンダ、人間の言葉わからない。
鮭。
呪術師続けるなら喧嘩売る相手は選ぶことね。うちのパシリに何してんだよ前。あら、落ちこぼれすぎて気づかなかったわマッキー。落ちこぼれはお互い様だろ。お前だって物に呪力を込めるばっかりで術式もクソもねえじゃねえか。重力がないよりマシよ。上ばかり見てると首が痛くなるから、たまにはこうして下を見ないとね。はあ、やめやめ。底辺同士でみっともね。野原、立てるか。無理よ。しばらく起きないわ。それなりに痛めつけたの。何やる気。ナイスサポートマキさん。おろしたてのジャージにバカすか穴開けやがって。てめえのその制服置いてけよ。私の夏服にしてやる。次は体の穴増やしてやるわよ。あとその足の長さじゃこれは着れないんじゃない。落とせ。
帰るぞマイ。
そんな。
上着あった。
伏黒は大丈夫だ。パンダたちがついてる。
楽しんでるようだな。
冗談。私はこれからなんですけど。
ダメだ。お前と違って俺にはまだ東京に大事な用があるんだよ。高田ちゃんの怖くがな。乗り換えミスってもし会場にたどり着けなかったら俺は何しでかすかわからんぞ。ついてこいマイ。
まあ勝手な人。
いつもの京都外れるとはな。
あんたたち交流会はこんなもんじゃ済まないわよ。何買った感出してんだ。制服置いてけこら。やめとけバカ。ここじゃ勝っても負けても貧乏くじだ。交流会でボコボコにすんぞ。ねえマキさん、さっきの本当なの？呪力がないって。本当だよ。だからこのメガネがねえと呪いも見えねえ。私が使うのは呪具。初めから呪いがこもってるもんだ。お前らみたいに自分の呪力を流してどうこうしてるわけじゃねえよ。虎杖がもらってたやつと同じか。じゃあなんで呪術師なんか。嫌がらせだよ。見下されてた私が大物術師になってみろ。家の連中どんな面すっかな。楽しみだ。ほらさっさと翔子さんのとこ行くぞ。私はマキさん尊敬してますよ。あっそう。
矢がはまだかの。老い先短い年寄りの時間は高くつくぞ。
矢賀学長はしばらく来ないよ。 として。その説はどうも学願寺学長。
はて、その説とは。
とぼけるなよじじい。虎杖裕二のことだ。保守派筆頭のあんたも一枚噛んでんだろ。
やれやれ、最近の若者は敬語もろくに使えんのか。
花から敬う気がねえんだよ。最近の老人は主語がでかくて参るよ、ほんと。
ちょっとこれは問題行動ですよ。しかるべきところに報告させてもらいますからね。やっべえ、生五条悟だ。
52。こっちも長話する気はないよ。
しゃべっちった
昨晩未登録の特級呪霊2体に襲われた。
ほう、それは災難じゃったの。
勘違いすんなよ。僕にとっては街でアンケート取られたくらいのハプニングさ。
かっけ
その呪霊たちは意思疎通が図れたし、同等級の仲間もまだいるだろう。敵さんだけじゃない。はかりに乙骨、そっちの東堂、生徒のレベルも近年急激に上がっている。去年の夏油傑の一件、そして現れたスクナの器。
何が言いたい。
わかんないか。あんたらがしょうもない地位や伝統のためにせき止めていた力の波がもうどうしようもなく大きくなって押し寄せてんだよ。これからの世代は特級なんて物差しじゃ測れない。牙を剥くのが僕だけだと思ってんなら痛い目見るよ、おじいちゃん。
少しおしゃべりが過ぎるの。
おお、怖っ。言いたいこと言ったから解散しようっと。ああ、野外学長は2時間くらいで来るよ。じゃあね
ー。2時間？
ミワ、茶を買うてきてくれ。
はい。失礼します。追いつけたら一緒に写真撮ってもら
タカタンビームお願いします。
おう。はーい、行きますよ。タンポポ
お時間です。
映画館のあなたがやったんですか？
へえ、君、俺が見えるんだ。
凄惨な現場です。覚悟はいいですか、虎杖君。
Hello again. Still Adri Gregan. I'm just going after the fact. It's been a few hours since I've watched the episode. Unfortunately, a lot of the audio was lost, so I'll keep this discussion brief and just really cover the two main things I wanted to talk about this episode. And you are looking at your screens correctly. This is indeed one of them. So this one's going to be a little bit brief, obviously. I'm not going to go into a 20-minute monologue rant about people's taste in women and about fetishes. But I did think this was a little bit interesting. There's a little bit of something worth discussing here. Specifically, how he mentions how a person's fetishes reflect everything about them. Naturally, I disagree with this, like, inherently. This is just obviously not true, right? It's obviously not true. But it's not entirely not true, is it? Because if you think about it, like, and you don't have to say necessarily fetishes, but just, as he says, people with boring taste in women are boring people themselves. We'll go into talking about boring, what that means, and what that implies in a minute, but it's not necessarily about fetishes. It's just the things that you're interested in a partner. To some degree, I think we can all agree they do reflect a lot about yourself. They reflect a lot of the things you value about the way you project yourself. And more specifically, to get into what he mentions boring, I think it's a really interesting word he uses here. I don't think he's thought about it that much, but it's my job to overthink things, so here I am. I think what he's trying to say is people who express their tastes in a boring way are boring themselves. Because notice how he says a boring taste in women, not a taste in boring women. So he's not actually saying that, like, oh, if you're interested in boring women, you are boring. He doesn't care about the person you're interested in. What he cares about are your tastes. And I think more specifically, what's more interesting to take out of this is how you express your tastes. And I think that goes down to what he really wants to do here and what he's trying to do. He hates boring men. He doesn't want to have boring interactions. He wants things that are interesting. He wants people that are interesting. And I think that's what he's trying to say here is that the way you articulate your tastes, the way you articulate who you're interested in and how you can like put words to that is a pretty decent, it's a pretty strong reflection of how you express yourself, right? Because how you express your tastes, it's just a reflection of how you express yourself. Generally, you express yourself in a similar way, no matter what you're actually talking about. So when he denounces Fushiguro as boring, as having boring taste, it's not that he's like condemning his taste. He's not saying like, oh, you have bad taste in women. What he's saying is that you're not expressing yourself very well. You're a very boring person to talk to, a very boring person to interact with, and I do not respect that. He respects people who are, you can just look at them, very emotional, very outwardly expressive. Just people who are a joy, right? People who are enjoyable to interact with and to fight with. Because if you're enjoyable to talk with, you're probably enjoyable to fight with to a degree. So I think that's what he's trying to say with the boring taste and boring people. So building off from that, again, this is a little bit more far-fetched to say that a person's fetishes reflect everything about them, but I do think you can glean a certain amount about a person and about how you'll interact with them based on how they talk about what they're interested in, right? Fushiguro was boring to him. His taste was boring because he doesn't care about his physical. He seems to apparently not care about physical attraction, or at least he's not aware of his own physical attraction. Or if he is aware, he's not expressing it well. Whether that's because he doesn't know how to express it or he doesn't know it himself, doesn't matter. It's boring all the same, right? We can't have a big conversation about people we're interested in, or we can't sit at a park and rate people who pass by if you don't know what you're interested in. You don't know how to rate people. That's boring. So the only thing he really cares about is, the only thing he claims to care about is as long as she has an unshakable character, I won't ask for more. That's impossibly vague, isn't it? So, yeah, I don't agree with how he says it, and what he decides, but you're boring. You're boring. You're not interesting to me. You either don't know yourself what you like, or you don't know how to articulate it. Either way, that's probably going to be expressive of how you fight. So I'm not interested in you. So that's my overanalysis of this wonderful, however brief talk about fetishes. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about this episode was actually also in the scene. I've been kind of skipping past it. Is I forget her name, but this girl that keeps appearing in Fushiguro's backstory, the Holy One, the one who can do no wrong, the expression of good, the ultimate personification of good in his mind. And I think it's a really interesting sentiment she brings up here. Not forgiving people isn't a bad thing. That's just part of your kindness, isn't it? Interesting, isn't it? Not forgiving people isn't a bad thing. You can take this several different ways. The way I see it is, if you don't forgive somebody, then to you have deemed them to be unforgivable. What does that mean? Well, it means they've done something that is unforgivable to your ethics. More often than not, that's because they wronged somebody. Whether that somebody is somebody else, or whether that somebody's you, or whether that somebody's themselves. Depending on your moral character, your moral compass, depending on your ethics, what somebody does that you decide is unforgivable varies, but it generally means they've slighted somebody. So, as a result, if you don't forgive them, the fact she says this is, oh jeez, hold on, there we go. That's just part of your kindness. So if you don't forgive somebody because they've slighted people, and you consider it unforgivable, in a sense, that is kindness to their victims. Whether their victim is someone else, is you, or it's them themselves, right? If you deem them unforgivable, probably because they don't repent or because they've done so much bad, you not forgiving them is your kindness to their victims, the people they've wronged, the people they've slighted. So it's interesting. It seems like overly good, like she's in consolation mode, just trying to make him feel better, because he probably, admitted to her that he can't forgive some people no matter how much he wants to, or whether he wants to or not. And she says that's part of your kindness, because it takes a kind heart to empathize and sympathize with others enough to not forgive the person who wronged them. So it's a strange sentiment, but not one I disagree with, that not forgiving people can be part of kindness, can be another form of kindness. Isn't that interesting? And those are the only two things I really wanted to talk about. There's a couple different things, like the curse talk was the first time we saw it this episode. It's such a shame my audio got cut out. Both Mai and Maki don't have cursed energy in a sense. Mai does a little bit, but she can pretty much only imbue it into objects. She doesn't have any techniques. And Maki doesn't have any cursed energy at all. She can only use objects that have been imbued with cursed energy. However, she's clearly, Fushiguro respects to some degree, even though he claims that Okotsu is the only one he really respects. So clearly she's capable, she's competent. Which means even without cursed energy, she's done quite a bit with what she has, or what she doesn't have. And then, finally, this was a really great bit. This girl trying to act tough because she is part of her job as like the bodyguard, but she's just secretly losing her mind over being able to interact with Gojo, and she does eventually get herself the adorable. I love it. And then the more important thing here is the idea that we brought in episode 1 about how the talismans they use, the protective talismans, are curses that just keep other curses away. But as a seal on them weakens, it just ends up attracting them. So it's a stopgap that the authorities have placed, which is one day going to backfire on them and make the issue worse, right? It is a stopgap. It's the definition of a stopgap. It's not something you can maintain. And Gojo is pointing to that. This isn't directly about these seals. In a way it is, because that's kind of how Sukuna, this whole issue, is coming about. However, with the curses coming together and with everything seeming to coming to a head, this really just is, you've been slapping that flex tape on your dam for way too long, and there's just too many holes starting to poke through. As more and more tape comes undone, the whole dam's going to burst. and it's gonna burst soon. So this was really interesting. And then, of course, this elder, who's probably not to be messed with, definitely not to be messed with, probably have some of the most cursed energy in the show of any character. He's like, you're being a little disrespectful. And then she's like, you're being a little disrespectful. I don't dislike it. And I'll include little bits here about my own reaction to it. I was giggling like an idiot, even in the episode breakdown, a little Gojo jump scare. And it's just great. It's just a really fun episode. Miwa goes out, gets her selfie, forgets to get the tea. I'll also include my reenactment of the robot arms, the great character action she does at the end of this, and phenomenal. Mai becomes an Idol fan. It'll be great if she eventually consents to becoming his bride, his partner. Then they'll have something they can go to until they grow old, going to idol groups. It'll be great. Really fun episode, though. I really did enjoy it. It's too bad the audio a lot cut out, but I guess you do get a bit of a shorter discussion as a result, so give and take, I suppose. Regardless, I'm really excited for the next episode. It ended with what seems to be Yuji and potentially Yuji and Mahito on a collision course in the not-too-distant future. And given that both of them seem to be kind of blurring the lines between humans and curses in their own way, obviously it's all speculation on Mahito because I barely know anything about him, but it would be really interesting to see these two interact and see how the story uses them to further its themes and its ideas. So I'm really looking forward to that. That'll be coming out on Monday. Yeah, and that'll be episode 9. We're almost at the end of the first core, which is crazy to me. I imagine we'll get a new OP, a new ED. It's going to be nice. It's going to be bittersweet to get rid of this ED, send farewell, but we'll see what's next. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you're looking forward to the next one. Remember to leave a comment, subscribe, like, all that stuff, but the comment is the most important part to me because I would love to open a discussion with you. I love watching these shows because it's so much fun to, as you can see, it's so much fun for me to like dissect them and really find things worth talking about and then open up discussions so we can really just break this apart and get as much as we can out of it. So much fun to me. So if there's anything you want to leave in the comments, anything you want to talk about, please feel free to do it. I would love to talk to you. But until then, and until the next one, thank you so much for watching and have a lovely rest of your day.